Kokonor or Qinghai. Kokonor is Mongolian for Blue Lake. Qinghai is Blue Lake in Chinese. Great freight rafts loaded with wool rush down the thrashing, whirling waters of the big gorge. The raftsmen have to be clever and alert to keep the fragile craft from disaster. But even then, accidents occur, cargoes are capsized, and lives are lost. Well, our luck runs out. What a spot for a breakdown. And of course, even in China, there are kibitzes. But Wu soon has us underway again. Here's a real detour, and in any language, detour means mud and trouble. This is a far cry from a modern highway, but I was constantly reminded in this frontier country that less than 100 years ago, American pioneers were struggling through just such a terrain, battling and subduing the same stubborn nature and laying the foundation of a great modern industrial society. The real development of this part of China is dependent upon the solving of the problem of transportation. Slowly and painfully, this vast land is being prepared for the China of the future and plays its grim part in preserving the China of today. One slip and our truck may be stranded in the middle of the river for weeks. But the truck makes it while I stay behind to take the pictures. Here's how I got across. Walled capital of Kokonor, the doorway to Tibet. In a juncture of broad valleys nestled the provincial capital, western city of peace. Mud roofs top the 1- and 2-story structures that house the 150,000 inhabitants. We look down upon the Sinning equivalent of a hot dog stand. Rugged Tibetan tribesmen in brilliant-colored polos jog down the principal street. This is truly an Asiatic melting pot, a mixture of Chinese, Mohammedans, Tibetans, and Turks. A lamp of hammered iron burns vegetable oil and lights the door of the inn where we stop. Handicrafts form a large part of provincial activity, and here a skilled artisan fashions a colorful Kokonor saddle of wood. Here in this section, China is finding many craftsmen to aid in its new program. On the eastern edge of the city is one of the largest Mohammedan mosques in all China. Here at the turn of the century, hostile tribes were in continual conflict. 20 million people died in civil war, yet today they fight side by side against a common enemy. Although the prayer hall will hold 3,000 persons, there's not room enough inside for all who have answered the call to worship, and prayer rugs are spread in the courtyard. The devout bow and kneel again and again toward Mecca. These are Mohammedan soldiers, so far from the source of supply that they make their own yarn and knit their own sweaters. A rope maker, deft and very proud of his profession. He makes good ropes just as his father and grandfather did before him. An odd modern note as a Boy Scout troop swings down the road. One more evidence of the new China in the making. In crude stone mills like this, wheat, barley, millet, corn, and other grain are ground into flour or meal by the frontier people. The hand bellows maintain steady fire. Suddenly, tragedy struck. Our truck careened and plunged 200 feet over an embankment. I was able to jump just in time. But Wu, my brave and loyal driver, and his helper were killed. I returned to Sining and chartered other transport, primitive, springless mule carts, still the safest and most practical vehicles for these regions. Hundreds of workers were toiling along the road, and again it was plain why neither nature nor Japanese bombs can close China's lifelines. The next fellow is astride a donkey, a bicycle in his arms. The second has a slab of meat, and the third is riding the rumble seat. That evening we reached this village. At the inn, the woman warms up the hollow brick platform, or kong, to sleep on. Here in the far reaches of primitive Kansu province is the land which may one day be known as the Chinese Klondike. For this is mineral country, built out of the dust of countless centuries, blown down from the many mountain ranges that tower above the horizon. No man who has studied this terrain doubts the presence of rich mineral deposits. One day, a modern China, strong and well-equipped, will tap this reservoir to pay many times its debt to all the world. Along the upper reaches of the Yellow River, hundreds of natives wash the sands in search of gold. Here is a unique kind of water wheel. It lies horizontally in the current for the stream instead of upright, and is turned by the water rushing around rather than over it. A war is fought not alone by men with guns, but by far more men behind the lines who supply the guns, the food, the 1,001 items which an army needs. From these peoples, far removed from the fighting front, come the workers and the craftsmen, men and women alike, who are recruited to perform the endless tasks of China at war. The oldest weaving method in the world still does its bit for modern China. 4,000 years ago, just such looms as this probably produced the earliest woven fabric known to man, and a Chinese was the weaver. This is no mean feat, even for an expert. It calls for strength, agility, and a certain amount of luck. And when luck's against you, things like this happen. Now it's a matter of waiting for Old Man River to have a change of heart. But that may take time. So over he goes, bound for the riverbank some yards away. Finally, he clambers ashore to wait for hours or days if need be, till his logs are free again. Last Chinese outpost on the borderland of Tibet. We are at the roof of the world. In the distance towers the Tsingling mountain range, white with perpetual snow. Natives call Danga the devil's footstool. Tibetan prayer flags flutter from the ancient walls. A young lama jogs by on his shaggy Mongolian camel. Lamas are the holy men of Tibet. Tibetans believe they have supernatural powers to foresee the future, cast out demons, heal the sick. The Mohammedan woman wears a black scarf about her head. These two Tibetan nomads have just come in off the vast grasslands. To believers, one of the most holy spots in all Asia is not far from Danga, the lamasery at Kumbum, only to Lhasa, the capital of Tibet. Kum is the Tibetan word for 10,000. Bum is the word for image. So Kumbum means the place of 10,000 images. We pass many pilgrims en route to the holy place, praying and prostrating themselves as they go. As we draw near Kumbum, we hear weird and somber notes from 15-foot horns. Over the brow of the last hill, and amid a scene of turreted beauty, we see the fabled golden-roofed Lama temple, covered in solid gold, almost an inch thick. No man knows the value of this incredible building, but many attempts to seize it have been stopped in bloody battle. At the entrance of the lamasery are 8 chorten, or tombstones, each guarding the ashes of a sainted lama. Just within the gate, bright-eyed neophytes give us an exuberant and giggling welcome. If these boys can meet the requirements of their rigid vows, all of them will one day be priests. It is the custom to give one son of every family to the lamasery at the age of 7. There are about 3,000 lamas here at Kumbum. They renounce worldly pleasures and devote themselves to a life of prayer and meditation. Behind this Tibetan, who at last is about to enter the city, is a colossal chorten in the middle of the road, so big that traffic can pass through the arch and its base. In this manner, and for hundreds of miles, in slow and painful progress, come pilgrims from far and near, seeking the favor of the gods and peace of heart. Up to the 7th century, the Tibetans' religion was mere witchcraft and sorcery. When Buddhism came from India and, corrupted by the superstition of the past, became the Lamaism practiced today. Leaves from a sacred tree near the Golden Roof Temple are dried and pounded to dust, then sold to the pilgrims. With water added, the mixture is claimed as a cure-all for any disease. The lamas meet in their prayer hall for worship 2 or 3 times a day. Shoes are removed before entering the building, and once inside, each man chants his prayers in as loud a voice as possible, as though he were trying to outshout his neighbor. At other times, lamas devote themselves to whirling immense prayer wheels. Each of the cylinders contains thousands of slips of paper printed with the prayer, Om Mani Padme Hum. A vigorous push sends the wheel spinning, and since it is believed that the prayer on each slip is repeated once for every revolution, a large accumulation of merit can be acquired in a comparatively short time. When a llama dies, his body is carried to a hilltop. Here it is cut into pieces and fed to the circling eagles. That is a sky burial. Black eagles to the llamas are sacred birds. So sacred do the llamas consider the golden roof temple that they cannot worship within, but must perform their prostrations just outside. The hard wood floor of the porch is so worn by the ceaseless sliding of the llama's hands and knees that deep grooves soon appear in the boards, and they must be replaced every few months. Om Mane Padme Om Mane Padme O thou, the gem in the lotus.